Welcome, everybody. As you can see, Corey and I are ready to get started on the webinar here for the CortiCap, and we welcome you all. This is being recorded so that if you need to see it again, you'll be able to get a link to get the recording. And then I believe we're going to also post the link in Paylocity as well, so that it'll be available there. I'm going to wait just about one more minute or so before we start the webinar content for a few more people to log in. And then we'll be ready to get going. During the webinar, there are a couple of questions we're going to be posting, and we'll be looking forward to your responses, and then we'll be able to display those responses on the screen, but those are anonymous, so we won't know what any individual had actually responded. Okay, why don't you go ahead? And I'm going to introduce Corey as the product manager for the CortiCap, and he'll obviously be describing a lot of things about it, but I wanted to just state that this is a project that we've been working on for 2 years in developing, and it is one of those things that takes up a lot of time to do it right. And Corey's expertise and knowledge and experience definitely played a big role in the outcome of the product. And I want to certainly recognize that and thank him for that involvement. Go on, Corey, I'll hand it off to you.
Thank you, Jeff. I appreciate that. Like Jeff said, welcome to the CortiCap webinar. I'm Corey Tyler. I'm a registered technologist as well as the product manager at CortiCare. Wanted to introduce kind of formally the CortiCap to CortiCare. A lot of you have probably heard about it through the grapevine, either directly or indirectly, whether it was somebody within the company or maybe even some marketing material at a show or a journal that you picked up one quarter. So we wanted to give you guys our perspective on it and introduce it to you properly so you could create good opinions on informed opinions on the product itself. And it has been a journey, 2 years for sure. So we'll get going here. A lot of you have probably had experience with a cap at some point in time in your career. So we want to kind of set the stage and kind of get your feedback. You know, have you used a cap before? Was it ever disposable? And any concerns that you might have. This is, again, anonymous. So please answer. Let us know kind of what your thoughts are. It'd be interesting to see what the CortiCare team thinks of caps in general and, you know, where we're going with it. So I'm going to start that poll. You'll see that pop up on your side. I'm going to give you guys a minute to just respond. Okay, results are coming in. Seems like a majority of you have not used an electrode cap and probably wasn't disposable or reusable. So we're hovering around 70-30, 30 yes, 70 no, right in that range. So I'm going to end that poll now and launch the other poll. And we're going to see if you have any concerns. There's a litany of options here, so I'll just take your time and we'll start that. Not seeing anybody come through with the answers, but you're probably just reading them all right now. We're starting to fly in. Okay, so ease of use, accuracy of the electrode locations, patient comfort is kind of leading the way, but electrode locations and now signal quality are rising to the top. Okay, so it seems to be a dead heat between the electrode locations and the signal quality, which makes sense. You know, we're in the EEG business, so we know that those are the two important things. So that's good. That's good. Okay, so I'm going to end that poll and we'll get on with it. All right. So the big question is, you know, we're an EEG company. Why would we develop an EEG cap? The answer is pretty simple. You know, there's not a lot of EEG techs out there. There's a huge shortage of qualified techs that are able to put electrodes in the right place and the right time where we need them. So the problem's not going away. We know that we don't have a tech during the day sometimes, and we definitely don't always have them at night, but our patients still need the EEG so that we can either monitor them, the doctor can take a look at the EEG to make sure they're either in or not in the status, the care that they're giving is, you know, making an impact in more of just like a clinical sense, but more of an electrographic sense. So we thought when Brad and Tim brought this to me 2 years ago, they were like, you know, we need a cap. We need it in the ICU. We need to get electrodes on faster. There's not enough. And the challenge really isn't kind of going away. There's just the pool of EEG techs that are able to do this in America, the world. It's just there's too few of them, and it's not being changed fast enough. So we decided to go along the journey of a cap so that we could present easy to use but accurate and good signal quality cap. And we did that by going out and finding a manufacturer in the EEG space. It was somebody that had to be within the industry already, somebody that was probably already the two people that we ended up looking at the end, they already had something, but it wasn't quite really what we needed it to be. So we isolated one manufacturer, and it was important to us that A, they had the knowledge, but B, that they were willing to collaborate with us and have a give and take. They had ideas, we had ideas, and it had to be an open space for us to collaborate on a product that we were happy with, but they were happy with as well. So what did we do? We ended up developing a disposable EEG cap with a full 1020 montage with independent reference and ground. A lot of people are against caps. I would say a lot of techs are 100% against caps in general. So we had to kind of make something different. If you've seen one cap, you've seen a lot of caps, and we wanted to take a little bit from all of them and figure out what was wrong with them and kind of develop something that fixed many of those challenges and might even turn some heads on some techs themselves and say, hey, you know, I'd use that. It's not really what I'm used to. So we think that's what we ended up with. So a lot of people say, you know, hey, Corey, when you guys started this, did you have an idea of what success looked like? And, you know, success, you know, can be measured in a lot of different ways, but with regards to the CortiCap, the success to us was bringing EEG to more people in more places than it had it before. So our goal was, you know, if we can bring EEG to a place that hadn't had it before, that's a success. So that's where we started, and this is where we're going. So let's go to the next slide. It was a journey. You know, it wasn't a straight line. There were a lot of roundabouts, some dead ends, you know, working with different manufacturers, seeing their different products, either what was in their Skunkworks division or what they were willing to do and work with us. It was a challenge. And like Jeff said earlier, it was a 2-year challenge. Once we isolated our manufacturer, ended up being Green Tech. we were able to really throw our efforts into working with them. As much as we put into it, they put it back into it. It was really kind of a cool collaborative experience. And, it allowed us to develop the cap that we're going to talk about today. But it wasn't easy. But now we have an FDA-approved cap that we feel has been refined for the U.S. market, something that takes the little things that techs have in their heads that haven't made it to the cap market that we're used to. So we think we have something special. These are some images of the CortiCap in its packaging. On the left side, you have your pre-packaged disposable cap. In the middle, we have the cable set on a glass head and the cable connectors, and then the cable connector packaged. Our goal was to be able to get people trained on how to use a cap when tech wasn't available. And that was really our goal. We never really wanted to replace techs. That was never the intention. In fact, CortiCare hires more EEG techs than anyone I'm aware of. Huge advocate for techs and the knowledge that they have, but trying to find a way to get electrodes on when they're not available. So we took a lot of those little tidbits of knowledge that a tech might have and try to stuff it into a cap. And as you can imagine, that's a challenging experience. And then once you have the patient hooked up to the cap, it's like, well, you have an untrained person. What do you do with the patient after that? Well, CortiCare is happy to monitor that patient and give it over to quality techs who know what they're looking at and provide guidance to whoever that setup tech is and say, hey, we'll take it from here. We'll watch your patient. We'll communicate with your physicians. Impedances look good, or hey, we need to adjust a couple of these electrodes to kind of get it up and running. So that's our goal. A lot of the marketing you'll see out there, this is stuff that we already have. On the left is Connect to Better Care. What do you do when the best are not available? That tagline is from Christine Blodgett, as many of you are well aware. She's a key member of our team. And on the right, we have a flyer here. This is kind of common branding and messaging that you'll see in a lot of different places, whether it's at a convention, whether it's ASET or AES, which we just came back to, NCS. You're going to see this green cap over a patient. You're going to see the blue and the green come through. The blue is obviously from CortiCare. The green is from Green Tech, as their name denotes. And it just kind of drives home the fact that this is a partnership, that we did work together on this. And the idea was to kind of soften the approach of EEG and putting on all of those electrodes onto a patient's head through all the hair and just kind of make it more easy to digest. So that's pretty popular marketing that you'll see from us. And okay, so what is it that we created? Well, we created disposable EEG cap. Comes in 3 sizes. It comes in adult, it comes in child, and it comes in newborn. The adult and the child caps are full montage EEG caps, independent reference and ground. But the newborn cap is a double distance montage. So we can get it on their little heads, just a few less electrodes. We're probably going to develop a 4th size. You'll see that fill the newborn to child size, but then we'll have a pretty big offering for caps. These are some pictures of the newborn cap on a little baby doll here with a model, and we also have a model here, full adult 1020 montage. You can go ahead and scan the QR code. If you haven't been to our website recently, this will kind of bring you to the CortiCap landing page, and from there you can drill into IFUs, FAQs, videos. There's a whole host of information that you can find there. that'll be good. The idea was that, you know, not only would this fit most patients, most hair phenotypes, but it would also be able to work with most equipment. A lot of the caps out there now, or the limited montage solutions that are out there, you have to have a proprietary piece of equipment or proprietary cable set. What we did is we decided to make it system agnostic. So it doesn't matter what system you have. It could be Cadwell, it could be NK, it could be Lifelines, it could be Natus, it could be Compumedics. As long as it takes a touch-proof connection, you can plug in the cable set. The cable set is reusable, but as we said before, the cap is disposable. We will probably be coming out with pinouts for specific equipment and things like that in the future, but we really wanted it to interface with any piece of equipment we could really get our hands on. So the preferences across the board between different hospitals when you're working with a lot of different facilities, it varies widely. One place could use NK, another place could be a Natus house, and they're not changing that for anything. So we wanted to be approachable in that sense. So we wanted to design it, we wanted to connect to it, and we wanted to be able to record. But we wanted to use it for a lot of different applications. A lot of people are like, well, how do I use this? Well, you could use it for a routine, or you could use it for an LTM. It could be for your outpatients. It could be for your inpatients. But the same setup that you would use for a routine, you could roll into an LTM. You could record for 24 hours, 48 hours, 72 hours, really as long as you need to. The fact that you can keep recording and the electrodes are held in place eliminates the need for the person using it to know extra skills, like how to use collodion, how to use tape, or how to use head wrap. The electrodes are held in one place, so they can't fall off the patient's head. That's huge. Makes it very comfortable for the patient. They have a little chin strap. It's adjustable. You can loosen it. You can make it tighter. You can just let it hang there. The chin strap's actually not connected. It won't slide off. It won't push up like maybe you would expect. It's made of a spandex material that, is really soft and comfortable. And the chin strap actually isn't very itchy at all. Put a lot of effort into making sure that was comfortable. Once you connect to the patient to the cap, you have this reusable headset that you see in this middle image, and that connection everyone thinks is the proprietary connection, but it's really the only interface between the cable set to something that's agnostic to the cap itself, and that's a magnetic quick friction connection. So you have two pigtails that come off the ribbon electrodes, which offers this really lightweight feel to the patient, and it just snaps in. And once it's snapped in, you can record immediately. But if that patient had to get up and they had to go off to, say, either the bathroom, or maybe you had to move your newborn patient out of the bed and give it to mom, you could quickly just unclick the connection and then move the patient, do whatever you've got to do, and then reconnect. That feeling before of EEG being intimidating, you have all these electrodes coming off the back of the head, it's kind of this fragile thing that didn't really want to touch because you also had to lug around a head box. That all kind of goes away and is softened by the fact that you can connect from that head box. The electrodes are managed. They're not going to fall off really in any way.
This might be a good time to go to the video.
Yeah, we could go to the video. Yeah. So I'm going to just start this video here. This is a training video that actually Mel in the Connecticut office kindly volunteered himself on many occasions. So you're going to see that come across now.
I'd like to introduce you to the CortiCap in partnership.
And this is also on our webpage. So if you want to watch it again, you can see the supplies here. Everything that we recommend: wave prep, applicators, slip tip syringe, not the blunt tip blunt tip needle of old. We have our LFX. We found that to be the conductive paste that really worked the best. We found that using the techniques that work, that technologists use on a daily basis, can be modified a little bit to work with the cap itself. And that was really one of the tricks we had to learn. Blunt tip needles are obviously something we don't support, but with the slip tip syringe, it's all plastic syringe. You could deliver the LFX to the base of the electrode, but not use it as a exfoliating device. Cap goes on fairly easily as long as you make sure that that front seam is in line with the eyebrows. You pretty much have the cap in the right place. Small adjustment comes in when you get it buttoned down. You just adjust T3, T4.
These clip into
Make
the cable set.
Sure that
Magnetized together.
the ears and your side, and then you have a gray to gray side. And that's your right. So you can really come to play here with the white and the gray. And then you're ready to go.
Except for the referencing ground.
It's pretty clearly labeled. You can see what the front of the cap is. You can see what the back of it is because we printed it on the ribbon itself. Each electrode itself on the cable set or on the cap itself is clearly labeled. You can see the FP1 is FP1. So if you had to teach a allied professional, maybe a nurse, somebody who's monitoring your EMU, they go in and say, oh, a Natus Trex box that we plugged into. You can see the individual labels. As big a print as we could get on a wire electrode. And here we go, diving into the application itself. We're still using those applicators that you're used to seeing as a technologist, if you are one, to kind of prep the skin and sweep the hair away. That's actually really, really important. Sweeping the hair away allows you to get contact with the skin. You can actually kind of see the skin through the top of the electrode. And this is really what we're teaching people when we're training them to be CAP technologists, is to prep and sweep and inject. Those are really the three things that they really have to know to make this work. It gets a little system specific depending on whether you're dealing with NK or Lifelines or Natus with regards to which ones you apply first. But here you can see prepping back and forth. You can see under that electrode. If you don't get it on the first time, you can always go back in with the applicator and sweep again, and that reveals the skin. You do that as many times as you need to so that you can see that the hair is out of the way. And you can see the hair actually comes through the cap hole, and that actually lets you know you actually did it very well. And then you can go ahead and inject the LFX. You'll see the electrode kind of raise up. And this is what gives us the good signal quality, is that we're using those standard prepping techniques kind of just in a softened way so that you're not dealing with the hair directly, but you're able to move it away so that you can get the LFX where it needs to be and the electrodes to get good impedances.
Sweep to the side.
You see that large sweep there, and that's really the magic. That's what makes it work, for sure. And then once you have this up, if you're doing a 30-minute recording, you have a patient in the ICU and you want to, see if they're in status, you can quickly roll that patient from a routine to an LTM with no extra effort. There's literally nothing you need to do except keep recording, make sure that video is in the right place, make sure your impedances are good, and you just keep going.
Use a syringe to add the conductive cream to the base of the electrode.
Use probably about 15 to 20 mLs of LFX per patient, depending on the duration you're running. You might have to give a little bit more, so it goes for that 48 hours, 72 hours. So you can do that fairly reliably. Once you get that up, you're dealing with normal impedances. You're not dealing with high impedance electrodes. You're dealing with anything less than 10K. And it's just a sample of the impedances that we would traditionally see. Now, a lot of you focused on the quality of the of the signals, and you focused a lot on the locations. So we spent a lot of time on that, actually. It's kind of interesting that you guys kind of picked out all the things we were working on. We did a ASET poster, and one of our big things was, are the electrodes in the right place? And it's something we harped on with our manufacturer. We spent a lot of time educating them on the 1020 system, going over and over the electrode placement to make sure that they were as accurate as possible. And when we did the poster for ASET, when we compared like a registered technologist measuring with the 1020 system, and we compared it to the CAP, we found that the difference was nominal. There was no real major difference between the two, which was pretty powerful for us. So if you have any interest in that, take a look at that poster. It's pretty good, in my opinion.
And that poster has been shared with you as one of the files. So you can download that if you wish.
Excellent. Thank you, Jeff. After everyone sees the CAP, everyone has a lot of the same questions. And I'd like to kind of hit on those first. The first one is, is it MRI compatible? And the answer is no. We don't have an MRI compatible CAP. Something we'd like to have in the future, but one of the things that we did do is by not offering one, it drives the price down, so it becomes a much more affordable product to consume, so that we can get EEG to more people. And hopefully we have one down the road, but right now it's not MRI compatible. For supplies, we recommend LFX, we recommend Wave Prep. You can obviously substitute these, but the reason we did that is because of electrode integrity. For short and long-term durations, it's not an adhesive, so it's easy to take off in those ICU settings, and they're not as viscous as maybe you would used to with other gels, so you're not as likely to get that salt bridging that you might get from something that slumps outside of the electrode. How long can you record for is probably one of the big ones. That it's not going to go stale on you. I would say keep with your hospital protocols. If you check your impedances every 24 hours at a minimum, and then you check for skin safety, foreheads, behind the ears, stuff like that. You can establish whether you need to give it a little bit more gel or something like that. But largely, they'll just keep recording for as long as your normal electrodes would, if you were to apply them one by one. They're just not going to go bad. We just put electrodes in the right place for people so that they could digest it a little easier. The next question that we get is super common is long hair. Does it do long hair? Yes, it does. Absolutely does. There's actually a video within the FAQ section. You can see the link right here at the bottom right-hand side of your page. That video shows a long hair subject being set up. Impedance is very similar to what you would see with a short hair patient. It's obviously easier to learn on somebody who has short hair, like somebody like me. You could hook me up in 8 minutes. You probably take 3 CAP tries and 1 hour of training to get to the level where you have like mastery of it. But 1 hour of training and 3 CAP hookups is all we've found the average user really needs. There's obviously outliers there. But when you move to longer hair, the skill set that you use on the short hair just becomes more important. You have to have that skill set, and it has to be more refined to part the hair to get the gel to where it should be. A lot of people are in more advanced facilities. People who want to put on extra electrodes, that's a very common question. They want to put on LOC, ROC, T1, T2. At that point, it kind of goes to adding individual traditional electrodes. But one of the things that you can do is lift up the chin strap, and you can prep and tape the electrodes in place. But when the cap comes down, the cap itself keeps the electrodes in place so that it is snug. So instead of using your head wrap or something like that you might use to kind of try to keep some of those on the bottom fringes, the cap actually does a really good job of keeping it all there. And we've tried this in different facilities. We've done LTMs, we've done EMUs, we've done, just hooking up other techs, short-term recordings. We've tried ambulatory recordings. So it's interesting to see what different facilities want to do. The other question that we get is, can the electrodes move? And the answer is yes. The electrodes can move actually very easily. It's a mesh design. Think of it as a grid. And the electrodes can actually be plucked right out of that mesh, and then you can move it a cap hole, 2 cap holes, depending on what kind of patient you're dealing with, or the scars that they have, or post-surgical or something like that. Depends on the nature of what's going on with your patient. But each cap hole is 1 centimeter apart. So if you move C4 4 cap holes up or down, you know you've moved it 4 centimeters. That's an awful lot. But you could move your homologous electrode C3 in the same direction and the same distance, but without the need to measure. And you can communicate that fairly effectively to physicians. That's obviously like a little bit more advanced kind of scenario than you'd expect in most cases, but it is a possibility. And I think it's something that's relatively unique to the space of caps. I don't know of many places that you can actually pluck out the electrodes and move them the way you want. So, the cap is relatively new to CortiCare in terms of, being out in the public and in the wild and seeing what people do to our baby. And so far, it's been really cool. When we brought it to ASET with a poster, some of the best techs in the country are there, and they were widely accepting of it. And then we brought it to facilities, and some of them are big name facilities. And we had success. We were able to bring EEG to places that didn't have it. So that was really cool. The VA has been a project of the sales team for some time. And we were able to get into the Connecticut VA. The doctor there had lost his tech, and we were able to go in and train an LPN that had never done EEG before to use the cap. She went down to the ICU, hooked up a patient with the cap, and recorded a 24-hour study that ended up being beautiful, says the epileptologist who was reading there. So that was really cool. The concussion center, they're doing routines. They train their audiologist so the neurologist could read. We brought it to ThetaCare and put it through the gauntlet there. Their techs are really good. And we let them hammer away at it and see if they could find any imperfections, give us feedback, and kind of go through that process with us. And, Kelly, the lead tech there, even she was dead set against caps. She told me on the phone, she's like, Corey, I was 100% against it, but I saw your cap. And she liked the ability to move the electrodes and the fact that it's disposable and how accurate the electrodes seem to be kind of changed her perspective of where she was looking at caps. Children's Center, Connecticut Children's Hospital here in Connecticut as well. They deal with probably the most difficult patients you could imagine. The smaller they get, the harder the EEG setup becomes. And because the electrodes can't fall off, the techs there have decided to use the cap for their most challenging patients, the patients that, even though they have a bunch of techs there, they're using traditional methods, and they're doing all the things right. There's some patients that they can't hook up because they can't keep the electrodes on, they can't measure the patient properly. So they've actually turned to the cap for their child and their newborn population to help with that. And, one of the techs that's our champion there keeps texting me. He's like, we got another one. I wouldn't have been able to get this without the cap. So that was really cool to see the change that we could make for that child that who knows when the last EEG was that they received, just because of how challenging they are, not because that's the way they want to be, it's just the way they are. Beth Israel Needham, we brought the cap there for us to use for their LTMs. And first day we hooked up one cap patient, and then we hooked up one patient with standard electrodes, and they were both LTMs. And then we didn't tell the doctor, and then he read it, and we were like, well, can you tell which one? Is there a difference between the two? And which one's the cap and which one's the standard electrodes? And if you hop on the video, it's kind of evident, but he couldn't tell from the EEG itself. He was kind of blown away at how similar they were. The last two, Piedmont and Dignity, at least these 7 that we have here, in both cases we're training untrained people in terms of EEG within a short period of time. But with Dignity, we trained, I think Sydney trained 6 respiratory therapists in a day, and from there they were very comfortable with EEG. They thought it was much more approachable. So it was really kind of cool to see that quick transition and that success that we wanted to see come to fruition in these places that couldn't offer that service before. So I'm going to show you a sample of the EEG. We've been talking a lot about how good the quality is and things like that. And this is a patient that was in the EMU. We did a 48-hour EMU study on this patient, and we wanted to just show you guys a little snippet of an EEG. This is the start of the study, going through photic and stuff like that. And this is obviously a native piece of equipment, as you can probably tell. We'll just let this play, just so you can kind of get a sense of what the EEG looks like from a CAP recording. And if you are interested in, diving into this further, this is an interest of mine. Our next step is actually to show that the EEG quality of the CAP is just as good as a standard hookup in the future with like quantitative EEG and stuff like that. But if you want to see more samples about this, please reach out to me and just, we can kind of go over all that together. I think the quality of it is pretty good because it mimics what you would do with a standard electrode. Okay. So it's just going through a couple more seconds here. And this patient is obviously awake and moving. There's a little muscle artifact and things like that. But yeah. The last thing I had for you guys was a little Q&A, just to see if you guys had any questions and answers that you wanted from me while you have me. So I'd be happy to open up the floor to hear what you have to say, see what kind of questions you have, and get an answer for you.
Easiest way to do that is to enter into the chat room and put in a question there, and then we'll address that to the group and to Corey. So far, I have a comment from Mike Adador that says, Corey is the man.
Thanks, Mike. Right back at you.
So, but there is a question asking, how long would a routine standard EEG setup take with standard application, and then compare that to the CortiCap setup for someone who's done it a few times?
It's one of those topics that's kind of subjective. It depends on, who's doing the hookup and the patient, the phenotype that they have, whether they're long hair or short hair. But with the poster that we did for ASET, I was the tech, so I was the benchmark. Now I could be fast or slow. It depends on who you are. But we tried to do 8 different subjects, different head circumferences, different hair lengths. A bald person who wasn't beat up by the sun. With the cap, we hooked him up in a little less than 5 minutes. And then with the standard electrodes, it took about 10 minutes. And with like my hair, it would probably be, I think it was 8 minutes or something like that for somebody like my hair phenotype with the cap. And you're probably looking at 18 to 20 minutes, depending on the technologist. It could be shorter than that. It could be longer than that. Depending on the tech you're talking to, it can kind of get a little sporty, and they're like, oh yeah, I can do it faster than that, or I can do it just as fast. But if you go to a long hair person, somebody who's got like hair down to their shoulder or something of that nature, it takes probably about 15, 20 minutes, depending on the density of the hair follicles and the length of the hair. But your ability to teach somebody who's never done EEG before in an hour with 3, kind of cap hookups to do an EEG. Like the lady I taught yesterday at the VA, she did a hookup on me. It was probably her 3rd hookup. She did it in like 25 minutes, and she was actually, it wasn't all setup time. She was going back and clicking the individual impedances to make sure that she got that one, because the native system doesn't go fast enough. So she was clicking on each individual electrode. So that probably ate up some time, but that was somebody who never done EEG before in her life. And she was able to do a really, really good hookup. Even the technologists that were there who saw her do it were like, whoa, that's like, you just trained her how to do that? Like, kind of blew their mind a little bit that they could get more people on their team to help them out because they were just, overloaded.
We have a question because the CAP is not MR compatible.
Mm-hmm.
The question is, can it be removed and then reapplied to the same patient?
So that's a great question. It's a sticky wicket, no pun intended. When you take the cap off, you have Elifix in both the cap, and then you have it on the patient's head. So, you're gonna have to clean up the patient to get them ready for an MRI or like a CAT scan, something of that nature. So we recommend just tossing the cap, because then you could have potential salt bridging when the conductive paste was removed. With the cap, it maybe bridged between the two electrodes. We recommend starting fresh, getting a new cap, and doing it properly. And because it doesn't take that long to hook somebody up, like I said, for myself, if it's a good user, you could probably hook me up in 8 minutes. That turnaround time isn't really terrible at all.
And then we've had experience now with several facilities and your own testing, of course, Corey.
Yep.
How long of a recording have you done with the cap, and what was the experience like?
Yeah, the longest I've done is 72 hours. I think that's the longest I've seen so far. Most facilities seem to be doing 24, 48 hours. There's probably going to be some cases as the product is out there a little bit longer where you're dealing with like 4 or 5 day EMU stays. But 3 days is where I've had it right now, and that's usually because volunteers who aren't patients, aren't maybe as ready and willing to keep on the cap as for an indefinite period of time. But there was no kind of inkling that it was going to degrade or anything like that. At that 3 day mark, he was ready to keep on going. Just a little bit of gel is probably all I would do of the Elifix, and I would just kind of keep on trucking.
So as we bring this to a close, we want to ask a couple of more poll questions.
Yep.
So here's the next poll. Would you support the use of the CortiCap in your hospital if a tech is unavailable?
Should be there now. %. Cool. CortiCare bias? I'm not sure. We'll have to see when we do the external review webinar. I haven't seen any no's, so seems okay. More coming through. All right. So we'll reset the poll and send the next one. This one is how likely are you to tell your other EEG technologists about the CortiCap? Okay, so we seem to be 50-50 between very likely and maybe to their closest friends, which is pretty common. Most people are reluctant to, say yes to it until they've actually tried it themselves. But we seem to be leaning more towards very likely, 63-36. So I'll end that poll. Great. So I'd like to thank everyone for their time today. I know this is a chunk out of your day, and we're all busy as all get out. But I wanted to actually thank a lot of people that supported this project. for Brad and Tim for actually bringing it to me and say, hey, work on this. It's been a really cool project. Jeff, Vicky, and Ray have been amazing bringing this product to market. Julie, Sydney, the Connecticut office especially. I think I hooked up everybody in this office, and they've been great about it. I really appreciate the team that actually came around this cap. Sales for bringing the word out. They've probably been the most important to get the word out, to other people. So it's been a team effort. Well, we've been developing this, and the efforts and the struggles have been real. The support among the CortiCare team has been really, really cool, and couldn't have done it without them. So, thank you if you guys are on.
All right. Well, thank you, Corey. And we're going to end the recording here. And the rest of you go talk about the CortiCap.
Thank you all.